Louisiana could become the first state in the country with no clinics offering abortions. The Supreme Court is expected to review a Louisiana law that requires doctors to have admitting privileges at nearby hospitals for abortion procedures. Now, only 2 doctors in the state's history have been granted those privileges. One of them no longer provides abortions, and the other may stop offering abortion services altogether if the law is upheld by the Supreme Court. CBS News reporter Kate Smith spoke with the administrator of that doctor's clinic.
If the Supreme Court sides with Louisiana for the admitting privilege law, the state could go down to 1 clinic.
Yes.
What would that mean for patients and providers?
It would be devastating. Devastating because with 1 clinic open, there's no way to assure that clinic would even remain open. We do have a physician that has admitting privileges. However, if he's last man standing, he has said all along he cannot handle the increased targeting that he would receive by the antis. So it would be devastating. We saw half the clinics in Texas close. And in 2010, there were, I believe, 7 clinics in Louisiana. Now we're down to 3. Already women are having to put off appointments in order to get in. Even if 1 clinic remained open, there's no way 1 clinic could see all the women that they would need to see. It's just not physically possible. So you're looking at increased wait times for women, higher cost of procedures, being farther along when the procedure happens. And for some, it simply puts it out of reach. So they would definitely, have to have another child, once again, that they cannot afford.
So there's a chance that Louisiana could go down to no abortion clinics?
Yes. Yes. I don't think that's an exaggeration. No.
Because that doctor has said he would quit because the harassment has gotten so bad.
It might not happen immediately, but it could not be. He could not maintain providing abortion care indefinitely. It would happen pretty quickly too, because, I mean, that particular physician has already been targeted so much in his personal and professional life simply for being here for all the years he's provided care here. So yeah, I mean, that's a very real possibility.
So Louisiana could become the first state with no abortion care?
Yes.
How does that make you feel?
Sad. Angry, very angry. When we first heard that our cert petition had been granted, of course I felt immediate relief. Okay, clinics remain open. But then I became so angry and frustrated because we shouldn't even be here at this point.
You indicated that the doctor here would feel like he was kind of forced out because of the harassment and what happens to him because of his profession. What are some of those things? Like, what does that look like?
Oh, he's been targeted at home, at his primary office, which is connected to a hospital, by antis that literally made it up as far as his office demanding attention or whatever. There have been veiled threats. There's constant online harassment through social media. I think professionally he's taken a hit from his peers because even though most physicians are pro-choice, you don't see a lot of them willing to step up and put themselves out there and say as much. It's too easy to just, if you have a patient in need of care, just refer them to the clinic, not have to worry about it. So, it's taken its toll, and he's been here longer than I have, and, he's just as good today as he was then. He's a very dear person that absolutely deserves a break. And if all the other clinics were to close, it would be, I think, more than anybody could ask of him to continue the work.
And if he did step down, would you understand?
I would hate it. It would be devastating for all of us, and not just the staff, but for the women that we generally serve, not just in North Louisiana, but South Louisiana, East Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi. We have patients come to us from Oklahoma. It would be devastating for all of them, I think, and even though they may not have a personal one-on-one relationship with this physician, we have, patients that will come back and bring a friend, or we've had women come in that had seen us as patients that have come back with their daughters or granddaughter and ask about this physician. And, is he still here? Oh, good, So in our circle, he's somebody special. He keeps a low profile out and about in the community, mainly because of the work here. And I hate that he's felt like that he's had to do that or needed to do that.
I mean, that's a tremendous burden to choose between your own safety, your own professional, viability, and maintaining abortion access in the state. I mean, how does he wrestle with that?
I think he has his moments when he thinks, he's not getting enough support from peers or the medical community, and he's ready to hang it up. But then he'll come to work, and the patients, I think, make the difference there. Their gratitude. So he knows that somebody's got to step up. So as long as he's willing to do it. I just don't know that he would be able to do it if he is the last man standing, as he puts it.
The lawmakers that pass these, they would argue that having admitting privileges makes it easier for patients when they're in an emergency situation. In your experience, do they help?
Well, we don't have a lot of experience there because we don't admit a lot of patients. I will tell you that it's very rare indeed for a patient to go to a hospital from the clinic. And because we see patients from hundreds of miles away, the physician having privileges within 30 miles of the clinic does no one any good. The law requires if a patient has any type of complications for anything, it might not be abortion, it could be for any type of health issue. If it's an emergent situation, they have to be seen in the hospital. And most hospitals have now gone to using hospitalists rather than physicians admitting and then overseeing their own patients. So again, it simply doesn't compute.
So talk to me about your experience at the clinic trying to get admitting privileges for your physicians.
We currently have two physicians. One physician has admitting privileges through a private practice. The other physician, which I think in the case is Dr. Doe 1, tried extensively. As a matter of fact, at one point when this first started, when we're first seeking privileges for Dr. Doe, we were very close to obtaining them. However, there were a couple of people on staff in that particular hospital that had issue with it, and so any offers were rescinded. The process of obtaining admitting privileges can go on for months, if not years. It's a lot of paperwork involved, going through jumping through many hoops. It's a lot of back and forth, and the end result is the hospital holds all the cards. You're asking them to provide admitting privileges for someone who they probably won't ever have a patient. They'll never receive a patient from this person. And there's a lot of community flack, a lot of pushback should it get out and about in the community that this hospital is granting privileges. So it's a no-win situation for hospitals. Why? They simply state, you're not providing us with any income because you're not admitting patients, so why should we put our necks on the line here to grant you privileges? So, we had actually started trying to obtain privileges for Dr. Doe 1 prior to the law being passed. We saw what had happened in Texas, and we knew it was going to happen in Louisiana, so we started ahead of time, and here we sit.
Earlier this hour, we told you Louisiana could become the only state in the country with no abortion access. If the Supreme Court rules in favor of Louisiana's Unsafe Abortion Protection Act, it will leave just one clinic in the state allowed to offer abortion services. And if that happens, the doctor there says that he might stop doing so. So CBS News reporter Kate Smith has been reporting on this all week, and she joins us now. So we saw your piece earlier, and you interviewed the administrator of the clinic there in Louisiana, but you also have spoken to the lawmaker, the author of the bill in question. This is the bill that requires doctors to have admitting privileges if they're going to perform abortions. How does the author of the bill respond to the concerns that this will limit access to abortions?
She doesn't care. She views this as, if you can't get a safe abortion in Louisiana, it's not worth having any abortion in Louisiana. Here's a little bit more about what she had to say.
So I'm not concerned about physicians performing abortions in our state that are not concerned about continuity of care. My concern is for the health and safety of women. I don't have a growing concern about one facility being open. Because if you want to practice medicine in this state, any type of medicine, I don't consider abortion to be medicine, but they say it is. And if you're going to practice in that area, then offer continuity of care. Make sure that in a time of trouble from a procedure, your patient has the best outcome possible.
Okay, so it sounds perhaps like a reasonable argument. A doctor should be able to take his patient to the closest hospital should there be an emergency. Is it a valid, I don't want to say valid, but what do you make of her response to that?
Well, let me tell you what professional organizations would make of that response.
Okay.
The American Medical Association and the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, the leading professional organization for that field of medicine, they both believe that this law is medically unnecessary. The Supreme Court looked at this exact same law out of Texas. They ruled it to be medically unnecessary. And now I was in the clinic, in the Hope Clinic that was nearby her district, and I was sitting in their office all day. And when they heard her say that, they thought it was completely ridiculous, because in their mind, when they have an emergency, it doesn't matter whether or not they have admitting privileges. They just call the hospital and they explain what's going on. And there's nothing about admitting privileges that it's ever going to interrupt that care.
Interesting, very interesting. So I think most people in this country know that Roe v. Wade is the court case that allowed for abortions to be made available here in this country, and many people see it as settled law. How does this law, this Louisiana law, sort of factor into the Roe v. Wade argument?
So that's what's so interesting about admitting privileges and about this style of law. We've talked so much about trap laws, targeted regulation of abortion providers, and this is the perfect example of one of these laws. And, you know, if the Supreme Court does uphold this, what you could see happen in Louisiana, no legal access to abortion. Now that is exactly what pro-abortion rights advocates have warned us could happen if we effectively allow state lawmakers to allow Roe v. Wade on the books. Don't worry about an abortion ban when you can just regulate abortion out of existence.
Right, and in fact, there are similar laws on the books in other states. They may not have been enacted yet, but they're there sort of ready and waiting, which leads me to my last question to you, which is, how does this fight over this Louisiana bill impact what could happen in other states?
It could have national devastating consequences for abortion access, specifically across the South and Midwest, states where you've seen hostile laws being introduced and implemented towards abortion access. As you mentioned, many states have passed admitting privilege laws, but all of those were rendered, unconstitutional after you saw that Supreme Court decision 3 years ago. If the court reverses course and these are allowed to be implemented, you could see many states go down to one or even no abortion clinics.
All right, Kate, you have been on this beat. You're sort of our go-to person because you really know everything about it. Kate, thank you so much.